If you want to land your dream job of becoming a flight attendant, then this video is a must watch. In this video specifically, I'll go through step by step the Delta Airlines HireVue virtual job tryout, also known as the VJT, everything you need to know about this process. If you want to feel more prepared, more confident, and increase your chances of getting hired, make sure you watch this entire video. Also, later in this video, I'll show you where you can download my exclusive flight attendant hiring guide, covering all the major airlines, their interview questions with sample answers, hiring processes, common FAQs, and much more. So in today's video, I'll be covering the following. What is the Delta HireVue VJT? Number 2, what is the purpose of the VJT? Number 3, what types of questions are asked? Number 4, what Delta recruiters are really looking for? Number 5, how long does the VJT take? Number 6, Reddit feedback and candidate experiences. So I will actually provide experiences and feedback from people who've gone through this process and what they have to say. And number 7, what happens after passing the VJT, the virtual job trial? Great. So what is the Delta HireVue VJT, the virtual job trial? The HireVue virtual job trial, also known as the VJT, is one of the most important stages in the Delta Airlines flight attendant hiring process. Many candidates believe the interview is the hardest part of getting hired, but according to applicants online, a huge number of people are eliminated before they ever reach the face-to-face interview stage. The VJT is designed to simulate real workplace situations flight attendants deal with every day. Instead of simply asking personality questions, Delta uses the virtual job tryout to evaluate how candidates make decisions, prioritize safety, handle pressure, communicate professionally, and respond to customer service situations. So what is the exact purpose of the VJT? The main purpose of the HireVue virtual job tryout is to help Delta Airlines evaluate how candidates think and respond in realistic workplace situations before moving them forward in the hiring process. Unlike a traditional interview where candidates simply talk about themselves, the VJT is designed to test how applicants make decisions under pressure, prioritize tasks, interact with customers, and handle situations that flight attendants commonly experience on the job. Delta appears to use the VJT to measure qualities such as safety-first thinking, professionalism, customer service judgment, teamwork, adaptability, communication skills, ability to follow procedures. Great. So what types of questions are asked? According to candidates online, the HireVue virtual job trial VJT for Delta Airlines focuses heavily on situational judgment and workplace behavior questions. Applicants report being placed into realistic scenarios involving difficult passengers, teamwork, safety, prioritization, professionalism, and handling pressure during fast-paced situations. Many candidates online say the VJT asks most likely and least likely style questions where applicants must choose how they would respond in real workplace situations. For example, a passenger becomes upset during a delay. How would you respond? Number 2, a coworker is not following proper procedure. What would you do? Number 3, you are assisting one passenger when another passenger urgently needs help. How would you prioritize the situation? Number 4, a customer request conflicts with company policy. What would you most likely do? Number 5, a teammate asks for assistance during boarding while you are completing another task. How would you respond? Now, I'm not going to read through number 6, 7, and 8, but you do get a good idea of the type of questions you will be asked during the VJT, which is the virtual job trial. So let's look at a candidate experience. So what somebody said about the process. I was able to find these online, searching communities and specific forums, so you can get a better idea of what people who've gone through the process actually have to say, okay? So candidate experience number 1. The VJT was honestly much harder than I expected. It wasn't necessarily difficult questions, but almost every scenario forced you to choose between multiple good answers. A lot of the situations involved upset passengers, delays, teamwork, and multitasking under pressure. What caught me off guard was how much Delta seemed to prioritize professionalism and safety over trying to simply make the customer happy. I realized really quickly they wanted people who could stay calm and think clearly during stressful situations instead of reacting emotionally. Let's look at another candidate experience, number 2. The biggest thing I noticed during the VJT was consistency. The questions kept repeating the same themes over and over, but with slightly different wording and scenarios. There were a lot of questions about handling conflict, working with different crews, and following procedures, even when passengers were upset. It definitely felt like Delta was trying to figure out if your mindset naturally matched the role of a flight attendant. I took my time reading every question because some of them were worded very carefully and could completely change depending on one detail. Let's look at one more. Candidate experience number 3. The virtual job tryout VJT felt very realistic compared to other airline assessments I've taken. It honestly made me feel like I was already working as a flight attendant handling real situations. Most of the questions focused on customer service, teamwork, staying calm under pressure, and prioritizing safety during stressful moments. A lot of people underestimate it because it's online, but I could tell Delta was heavily evaluating judgment and decision making. After finishing it, I understood why so many candidates get eliminated before ever reaching the interview stage. If you have a flight attendant interview coming up and want the exact interview questions and sample answers asked by 15 of the major airlines like United, Delta, American, SkyWest, and more, check out my exclusive flight attendant hiring guide. Inside, you'll find the exact interview questions, sample answers, what recruiters score you on, and what it takes to land a conditional job offer from these airlines. Click the link in the description below to preview the guide and grab your copy today. Great. So what Delta recruiters are really looking for? According to candidate experiences shared online, the HireVue virtual job tryout VJT is not simply about getting correct answers. Delta Airlines appears to use the VJT to evaluate whether a candidate naturally thinks, reacts, and behaves like a professional flight attendant. One of the biggest qualities Delta recruiters appear to prioritize is a safety-first mindset. Candidates online repeatedly mention that answers focused on procedures, passenger safety, and calm decision-making seem heavily favored throughout the assessment process. Another major quality recruiters appear to look for is professionalism under pressure. Flight attendants constantly deal with delays, difficult passengers, emergencies, changing schedules, and stressful operational situations. According to applicants online, Delta wants candidates who can remain calm, emotionally controlled, and professional even during high-pressure situations. How long does the VJT take? According to many candidates online, the Delta HireVue virtual job try VJT typically takes anywhere from 30 minutes to about an hour to complete, depending on how quickly candidates move through the scenarios and questions. Many applicants recommend taking your time, reading every question carefully, and completing the assessment in a quiet environment without distractions because the wording of the scenarios can be very important. Let's look at candidate experience number 1. The VJT took me around 45 minutes because I didn't want to rush through the scenarios. Some of the questions look simple at first, but once you slow down and really read them, you realize Delta is testing how you think under pressure. Candidate experience number 2. Mine was probably close to an hour because I kept rereading the situational questions. A lot of the scenarios were very detailed and felt realistic. So I definitely recommend taking it somewhere quiet where you can fully focus without distractions. Reddit feedback and candidate experiences. Let's look over some candidate experiences about their overall experience with the virtual job trial VJT. This is meant to give you a real perspective into the minds of those who went through this part of the hiring process. Now, if you've watched my other videos, I do put this section in all of my videos because what I like to do is actually give you first the information and then give you the perspective of those who went through the process and what they have to say about it. I research online in communities and sometimes direct message those who've gone through the process to see what they really have to say, okay? So let's look at candidate experience number 1. The virtual job tryout honestly surprised me because it felt way more realistic than I expected. Most of the scenarios involved handling difficult passengers, multitasking, delays, and making decisions under pressure while still staying professional. I realized really quickly that Delta was paying close attention to safety, teamwork, and emotional control more than trying to give passengers everything they wanted. Some of the questions were tricky because multiple answers sounded good, but one usually aligned better with company policy and professionalism. So it's always a good idea to know Delta Airlines company policy when it comes to specific situations. That way it may help you choose the better answer, okay? I definitely recommend taking your time because the wording matters a lot than people think. By the end of it, I understood why so many applicants get eliminated during the stage of the hiring process. Candidate experience number 2. I thought the VJT was going to be a basic personality test, but it felt much more like a real work simulation. A lot of the situations forced you to balance customer service with safety procedures and teamwork, which made some questions harder than expected. What stood out to me was how Delta seemed to test professionalism during stressful situations instead of just focusing on making the passenger happy. There were several scenarios where staying calm and following procedures clearly mattered more than trying to immediately solve the customer's problem. I also noticed similar themes repeated throughout the assessment in different ways, so consistency definitely felt important. It honestly felt like Delta was trying to figure out who could realistically handle the pressure of being a flight attendant before moving candidates further in the process. And finally, number 3, this is the last one. For me, the hardest part of the VJT was that almost every answer sounded somewhat correct. The assessment constantly put you in situations where you had to decide between helping a passenger quickly or slowing down to follow procedures properly. A lot of the scenarios involved delays, stressed passengers, and teamwork during busy situations, which made it feel very realistic. I could tell Delta was looking for people who stay calm, think professionally, and don't panic under pressure. The assessment definitely rewarded safety first thinking and collaborative more than trying to act independently. After finishing it, I understood why candidates online kept saying not to rush because small details in the questions can completely change the best answer. So what I've gathered from these 3 testimonials is A, safety first mindset. B, you always have to follow Delta Airlines company policy first instead of what the passenger wants. And I believe it's because the company policy is so closely aligned with safety. All right. And C is not to rush through it. A lot of the questions are similar, so it's very important to take your time, read through the question, understand the company policy so you can answer those questions more aligned with what Delta wants, okay? So what happens after passing the VJT? After successfully passing the HireVue virtual job trial VJT, candidates for Delta Airlines typically move forward to the next stage of the flight attendant hiring process. For many applicants, this is usually the on-demand video interview, also known as the ODVI, or another recruiter review stage. So many people reported receiving the next step within a few hours or days after completing the VJT, while others mentioned waiting several weeks depending on hiring demand and training class availability. Just a quick reminder, if you have a flight attendant interview coming up and want the exact interview questions and sample answers asked by 15 of the major airlines like United, Delta, American, SkyWest, and more, check out my exclusive flight attendant hiring guide. Inside, you'll find the exact interview questions, sample answers, what recruiters score you on, and what it takes to land a conditional job offer from these airlines. Click the link in the description below to preview the guide and grab your copy today. Stay safe, keep smiling, and good luck.